الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Uh, we finished الشركة, the فصل of الشركة, right? We continue inshallah ta'ala with Al-Musaqat. The next chapter is Al-Musaqat, and Al-Musaqat is crop sharing, or Muzara'a is usually translated as crop sharing, but it has the same meaning. But Al-Musaqat is more specific with the irrigation of the land, but it specifically for trees, because the trees, they don't call it Muzara'a, but rather they call it Musaqat, because it requires the irrigation of it, the different types of having the water source for the trees versus the rest of the plants. So it's just a terminology thing, but it's the same ruling. So he says here, Faslun, chapter. Everybody's there, John? وتصح المساقات على شجر له ثمر يؤكل. تصح, that means it's valid. المساقات is a عقد, is a contract between two parties or two sides. One has the trees, or has the land with trees, and someone would work on the land to, like a farmer, for example, or someone that he knows how to deal with plants and trees and so on. And the other one, he owns the land. So they would have a contract in which one would work and one would give the land to the trees. So تصح, this مساقات تصح على شجر له ثمر يؤكل. It's valid for shajar, for trees, that it has thamar. Thamar is the produce. يؤكل, that means it's to be eaten, for people to eat it. So it has to be something of benefit, something that people would eat. So this is valid. So this is one thing. له ثمر يؤكل, it has produce that is been that can be eaten. وثمرة موجودة بجزء منها. وثمرة موجودة, that means ثمرة, or produce that is present. So it's already present, and he would still help in finishing the job, or it's something that keeps on coming every year. So it's well established, and he still would work. And these two types, تصح, or this contract or this transaction is valid, بجزء منها, with a portion of it, or a part from the crops. So this is basically whatever they harvest the crops, then they already agreed that one will take some part of it and the other will take another part. And of course, this is ala al-masha', that means in the entire crops, not just a specific area of it, or the south part or the north part, or these trees versus the other trees. No, it's for whatever he works on, which is basically whatever the part of the land or the entire land. Then they would have the sharing according to the whatever they decided to be upon. So then he says, وعلى شجر يغرسه, and also the shajar that he would يغرسه, that means he plants it. And الغرس, we didn't take the musaqat, right? It feels like we took it for some reason. So okay, وعلى شجر, that means also the contract of al-musaqat can be also valid on trees that يغرسه. Al-ghars is when you put the seeds, when you put the trees. The trees, as we know, that some of it is planted with seeds, and some is that you would bring the small trees and you would dig in the ground for it to be there. So al-ghars, no, what's the best word in English, but when you dig the hole and then you put the tree in there. So this is يغرسه ويعمل عليه حتى يثمر. So he would work on it till it gives its produce, or the fruits, or whatever. So this is basically the way that they would have this contract between one another. بجزء من الثمرة أو الشجر أو منهما. So the profits will be according to a portion of الثمرة, whether it's on the produce itself or the trees or both of them. Because if he plants the tree, then whatever they agree with one another, how they're going to distribute the produce or the profits. But it's not on money, based on money. If it's money, then it's ijara. Ijara, that means someone is hired to work. So this is not someone that is hired to work in the land. This is having a partnership, some sort of a partnership with one works and one he owns the land or the trees. So as a result of that, that's why it comes after the chapter of a sharik, partnership. فإن فسخ, that means al-fasakh is breaking the contract. So if the contract is broken between both, but who? مالك قبل ظهور ثمر. So al-fasakh, or breaking this contract, either is going to be from the owner or from the worker, or the one that's going to do the work. So if the break in the contract comes from the malik, from the owner of the trees or the land, قبل ظهور الثمر. So either he make the fasakh, break in the contract, before a thamara or the produce appears, or after. So if it's قبل ظهور ثمرة, so the men start working on the land and things like this, but the produce did not show yet. And remember when we talked about al-dhuhur versus budu al-salah. Al-dhuhur is when it shows, versus budu al-salah is when it ripes and it's ready to be harvested. Correct? So قبل ظهور ثمر. So if he breaks the contract, the owner, before the thamara or the produce shows, فَلِعَامِلٍ أُجْرَتُهُ. Then al-amil is the worker. For him is ujratuhu, his ujra. His ujra is wage. So he's to be given wage that is known to the urf or to the norm. What would someone in his position as a worker would get? So he is to be treated as a worker if he had hired someone to work on the land. Who's the one that breaking the contract? Is the malik, is the owner. Clear? أو عامل فلا شيء له. Or if عامل is what? From العمل, عامل is اسم الفاعل, is the worker, the one that worked on the land. If he's the one that فسخ العقد, he's the one that فسخ المساقة, he's the one that broke the مساقة contract, فلا شيء له. There's nothing for him because he's the one that broke it. So nothing is for the عامل if he breaks it before the ظهور الثمر, before the ثمرة shows or the produce shows. And then he says وتملك الثمرة بظهورها. وتملك الثمرة بظهورها. الثمرة تملك, that means become owned by its ظهور. ظهور, that means it appeared, not by بدو الصلاح, not by when it's ready to be harvested. Once it appears, then the ownership is there. So before the ظهور, if they break the contract, then as we heard, if it's from the malik, from the owner, then he has to give the amil or the worker his wages as if he's hired to work. If it's from the amil, there's nothing for him because he's the one that broke the contract. If the thamara came out, so then the ownership is there. وَتُمْلَكُ الثَّمَرَةُ بِظُهُورِهَا. Then once it shows what they're going to do, then of course if they continue, that is, we're not having any issues. But it's the issue if they break the contract. If it showed, فَعَلَى عَامِلٍ تَمَامُ عَمَلٍ إِذَا فُسِخَتْ بَعْدَهُ. So the amil, the worker, he has to, it's upon him to finish his amal, to finish his work. تَمَامُ عَمَلٍ, to complete the amal. تَمَامُ عَمَلٍ إِذَا فُسِخَتْ بَعْدَهُ. إِذَا فُسِخَتْ, who's فُسِخَتْ? Al-Musaqat, since Al-Musaqat is feminine. So إِذَا فُسِخَتْ الْمُسَاقَةُ بَعْدَهُ, بعد ظهور الثمر, after the thamara shows. So after the thamara shows, so we can make like a tree or something as a way to get all the different cases here. So before ظهور الثمرة and after ظهور الثمرة. After ظهور الثمرة, the thamara is owned now, so it's different. So if the amil has to complete his job, if it's the contract is broken after ظهور الثمرة. وعلى عامل So and if the amil does not finish, he has to bring someone, he has to deal with it. And this is his responsibility. وعلى عامل كل ما فيه نمو أو صلاح وحصاد ونحوه. The amil, the worker, he is upon him because what should each side do, right? So which one should do what? Al-amil, he has, and this is again refers to the urf or to the norm. So the amil, he has everything upon him what requires numu or salah, and numu is growing, whatever is required for the tree or the plants to grow. It's upon him to deal with this, أو صلاح, or anything that would affect the produce, ونحوه, and the like of this. So this is upon him to do that. وعلى رب أصل, and for the رب الأصل, the Lord of the roots, the trees and so on, حفظ ونحو, to make sure that it's protected. It's anything that has to do with the foundation of the trees. That is without the issue of making sure that it grows and things like this. So the trees, the land, to make sure that it's it's protected. All these types of things. وعليهما بقدر حصتيهما جداد. وعليهما, upon both of them, بقدر حصتيهما, according to al-qadr is the measure, حصة is the share. So حصتيهما in the muthanna of both. So according to their share of the contract between both of them, جداد is the harvest. Whatever they harvest is to be distributed according to their حصة, according to their share that they agreed upon. 1/3 versus 2/3, whatever they agree together. Clear? طيب. وتصح المزارعة. Now the مزارعة here also is valid, which is the same thing as al-musaqat, but al-muzara'a is more specific to the plants versus the trees. So here بجزء معلوم مما يخرج من الأرض. It's also valid with a known portion of what comes out of the earth, because al-muzara'a, it has to be completely removed from the land for the new crops to come. So there's more to do with the specific responsibilities for both, versus the trees is already there from one year after the other. So the owner has something to do with the trees, as we heard. But al-muzara'a, the amil, the worker, would start the cycle from the very beginning till it's finished. So the same thing with the profit or the harvesting is according to what they've shared. He says بشرطي, with a condition, علم بذر وقدره. Things has to be known so that there's no jahala, there's no uncertainties or any deception. So knowing exactly what is being put in there, what type of seeds, what quality of seeds, whatever is needed to be known, and how much. How much doesn't have to be by the one seed after the other, but it's to be known, because they purchase the seeds and they put it in the land. So these things has to be known, because according to that is going to be the harvesting and the produce. وكونه من رب الأرض والله أعلم. وكونه, meaning the badr and everything is from the Lord of the land, from the owner of the land. He's the one that would provide this. So the muzara'a, the owner would provide the seeds and everything, and then the worker will make sure that it irrigated properly, taking care of it, to remove anything that is harmful, and so on. And of course, if they decided otherwise, that's fine, as long as the contract is very clear also of who's going to do it. So this is this is brief. Of course, the Musaqat is more rules and details and things like this. But this is, again, it shows that the same principles are repeated in these types of contracts. And it's similar also to the mudaraba, and it's a form of mudaraba if you want to look at it that way. someone with the money versus someone with work. But it has a specific, rulings to it or specific mention because it's something to do with specific way, which is al-musaqa or al-muzara. Shall we go to the next chapter? طيب, inshallah, we have few chapters left in the transactions. So we should review more of what we covered many, mashallah.